Hello, guys. Hello to the Duran, especially. It's the only place I'll put this video. Who we are? We are kind of military, I guess. Maybe not. We finished our contracts a few months ago, uh,
I guess we
and
could be called ex-volunteers.
maybe military volunteers.
Yes, we could be called ex-military volunteers.
It's hard to say we been volunteers because and me and you, we continue to work in the military section. I mean, you train, probably will train guys with FPV drones,
Yes,
and I work in the same
direction.
area, let's say,
Hmm.
drones. You can check our previous video on this channel. We made uh, a short video right on the front line. I guess it was 800 meters uh, between
Yes, I
us
guess.
and Ukrainians
Yes, I guess
at
it
that
was
place.
about a kilometer away from Ukrainians, and we were, and there were explosions by the end of the video. Two explosions, right above our heads. It wasn't uh, really uh, seen in the video, but it was much closer than pictured in the video. In real life, it seems much closer than in video.
I'll also show that fragment video where we've been shelled
Yeah.
right now, I guess.
Надеюсь, ты не снимаешь последний момент моей жизни, нашей вообще жизни.
Пошло.
Сейчас идет. Может, все-таки свалим?
Нет. Прям по их блиндажу.
So we've been there.
Yes.
If it's important for someone. Before we begin our main topic today, uh, I'll, I'd wanna talk about PTSR. So I guess for me it's not so big problem because I kind of been broken already before my contracts because I kind slightly older than Felix,
Yes.
my fellow soldier. Yes, and for you, it was harder, I guess.
Yes. Yes. For me, it was harder because I've just graduated from university. I didn't have as much experience by the time I got to the front line. I've hardly had any life experience, and I didn't have any. Obviously, I didn't have any combat experience. My friend blogger had military experience during the summer campaign of 2022, and for me, it was really difficult and challenging experience. I've lost comrades, I've lost friends, I've been shelled constantly, I've lost hearing in my ears, and uh, it was really difficult from physically and psychological stand of view. Uh, so I've served for half a year, and it was hell. Sometimes it was outright hell. And yes, a lot of times I thought that I wouldn't return home. A lot of times I thought that that's it. Now I'm going to die, and by some miracle I've survived. And I guess it was just a pure luck because shells exploded left and right, and I've seen shell fragments that flew just in front of my face and in front of my comrades. Some shell fragments or debris from trees and from soil, from earth, hit me. One big soil fragment that froze um, hit me on the shoulder, and it was an unpleasant experience. But I had a Kevlar protection, so yes. I honestly don't know how I managed to survive this long, and it really changed me. I don't know whether it changed me for the better or for the worse, um, but um, I definitely suffer PTSD now, and um, now I um, uh, go to medical center to cure it. And there is a whole medical center, rehabilitation medical center in Moscow to cure PTSD, and this medical center not only does this thing, but also it helps families. It helps combat veterans with other stuff, with some legal issues to adapt to civilian life, to find jobs, to gain some benefits, uh, to find new friends there, and there are a lot of good psychologists there, psychiatrists that can help you, and it's totally free for combat veterans and their families, and it really helped me a lot, and uh, I visit this center on the regular basis. It also helps veterans who lost their limbs, who are disabled, to return to normal lives. There is certain specialists who are dedicated to such a problem also there. And this PTSD problem uh, and Russia will face obviously a PTSD problem after the end of the war, because there are a huge number of combat personnel who are involved in the Russo-Ukrainian war conflict right now, and sooner or later this war will end, and these people will return home, and they'll bring PTSD with them, and the governments will have to deal with this disease. And I've seen for myself that the government is trying to deal with it, and in a lot of ways it is successful. But we have to come a really long way to really cope with this trauma. but we've started this way. Um, and it will be a really big problem for Russia because there are hundreds of thousands of people. As Putin said, there are 60, 100,000 of people that are involved in combat right now, and a lot of them will suffer from PTSD. So in our uh, country, we must do everything we can to help these veterans after the war to return to their normal lives. So it will be a really challenging task to accomplish. And I also suffer from PTSD, as I previously mentioned. For me, it's depression and I don't feel any happiness, and I feel sometimes aggression and irritation, and it's like a fire that started at the war inside you, and it spreads on your family, friends, relatives, and you should put it down yourself. And if you can't put it down yourself, you should turn to psychologists to help uh, put down this fire. Otherwise, you can burn down your whole life, and this thing can be problematic for the whole country because this fire, these thousands of people can bring this fire to the whole nation, and the whole nation can burn out because these people can they've seen injustice in the war, and they can seek justice when they return home in their own way. Uh, they've really changed, and they may be really much more aggressive. Uh, they may turn to alcohol, they may turn to family abuse, and it will be a really big problem. But I hope Russia will overcome this problem. We always overcame a lot of difficult tasks, and I hope that our government understands the difficulties that lay ahead of us, and that will cope with this um, horrendous disease.
I totally agree with you. Just want to mention just one interesting detail. It's it was easier on the war to feel happy, if we can say so, and feel calm. It was calm
Calm,
there,
calm.
calm. It was.
Yes,
We've been
yes,
able to sleep properly, and now it's a problem.
yes, yes. I've never faced a sleeping problem in my life, but after the war, I can sleep normally. I haven't slept at night for 3 days. I can only sleep now in the morning and in the day, and I have nightmares um, every single day after I've returned from war, and it's a big problem. And I have medical prescriptions, and I use medical drugs, and uh, but still I struggle with problems with sleep, and it's a big problem because during the war I've slept really well. It's a paradox because during shellings, during the explosions, I slept like a baby. But now, in my normal life, in my comfortable bed, I can sleep. I just can't. I just lay in my bed and I just can't sleep really well. because in during the war there isn't normal beds. You sleep in the trenches, and there are no beds in the trenches. Uh, you sleep in the, I don't know really how to say it in English, but in the bags, in sleeping bags, and it's obviously not as comfortable, as nearly as comfortable as normal bed, but I slept there really well, and I can't sleep in my comfortable Moscow bed, and it's a big problem.
Only one sound was able to worry us on the war. It's
But
that
but
sound.
even then, if the shell exploded near our trench, you just woke up and then you went to sleep again.
I disagree, strongly disagree. First, you think 100 meters, okay, I can sleep.
Uh,
50, it's dangerous. Like
uh,
so.
well, sometimes I wanted to sleep more than I wanted to live during war. I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to die, at least I'll sleep well before I'll die.
Very optimistic.
Yeah.
So let's be closer to our main topic today. It's overconfidence, self overconfidence. And also, I want to mention that on the West, I sometimes hear an opinion which see us better than we ourselves see us. I mean, uh, just one example. The beginning of the war. There is an opinion that Istanbul negotiations was part of the initial plan of Russia, but at least I see it in different way. It may be plan B, but plan A it was to take Kiev, and it was sneaky plan, and some forces inside Ukraine should act should act in that way also, but something went wrong. Uh, so maybe it was Russian overconfidence, but maybe it was just a hope that if it work out, it was perfect because Russia was able to success without mobilization, without big war. So it's not entirely clear. Was it self-confidence or just a hope? What do you think about it?
Well, we have a topic about self confidence of Russian Federation during the initial stage of the war. I guess the main reason of our failure in the beginning of the war was the miscalculation on the behalf of the our intelligence because they thought that Ukrainian military was totally inadequate. It was totally corrupt, and it wouldn't be able to fight, and it uh, didn't want to fight Russian troops. And they thought that the only ones that were ready to fight were nationalists like Azov, Aidar, and other nationalist battalions. And we can see it in the Russian reports, military reports, that the only ones that stand in the way of Russian armed forces are nationalist battalions. It were initial false reports of Russian military of defense. They were official reports, and they were false, as we can see, because the whole Ukrainian military were put in resistance um, uh, towards Russian invasion. So it was a failure on the behalf of our intelligence, and it was a really huge miscalculation on the behalf of our intelligence and on the behalf of Putin and our elite. So, but it but there is other way to but if this invasion took part in 2014 or 2015 or 16, it would have been real successful. It would have been went according to plans because this military was really easily defeated. These forces, Ukrainian military forces, were encircled in Donbass region, in Ilovaisk encirclement, in Ambrosivka encirclement, in southern encirclement, so-called southern encirclement on the border of Russia, and in Debaltseve encirclement. So they were defeated by the Donetsk and Lugansk militias with the help of Russian volunteers and with the help of few hundreds of Russian military personnel. So Ukrainian military was totally neglected by the Ukrainian country for decades, and it led to the total collapse in 2014 and 2015. So our intelligence assumptions were that if they suffered such defeats back then, that they would suffer also such defeats in 2022. And this would have been true in 2014 if Putin decided to carry out such military operations back then. It would have been a staggering success, no doubt. But since then, Russian military have gained a lot of military experience, and since then, Ukrainian military haven't been neglected. It have gained a lot of military experience. It have gained a lot of military resources. Ukrainian government have poured a lot of money, a lot of military gear into modernizing their military. And that's why our initial phase was a failure. So it was our overconfidence that led to the initial failure. So when Putin faced this failure, when he realized that the defeat of Ukraine, the sudden defeat of Ukraine, is not an option. He started Istanbul negotiations, and he said, "Okay, we ready for mild terms, and in exchange we pull out our troops. But the West said that no, you've made a mistake and you're going to pay for this mistake. And if we go back to the beginning of the war, even before the war, Putin said in 2021, and he called Biden, he called other Western leaders. He said that the NATO expansion is we won't tolerate NATO expansion in Ukraine. We won't tolerate nuclear missiles in Ukraine. And what did Biden and other military and other Western leaders said? They said, they literally said, it's none of your business. They said, we don't give a damn about what you think. We are going to expand NATO, and it's up to Ukraine whether they should have missiles, and whether they should deal with Donbass region. They said that Minsk agreements were only implemented to gain time to reorganize their military, to gain time to make Ukrainian military even stronger to deal with Donbass problem. If we go back to 2013, there was a coup d'etat, or revolution, if you want to say that. And the first thing that the first law that the revolutionary government implemented was the abolition of Russian language as a regional language. It's insane to think it's an insane law, considering that 80% of Ukraine speaks Russian language. In Donbass region and in Crimea, 95% of people there speak Russian language, and it was a slap on their faces to implement this law. For decades, it was really a big problem for them, because they wanted to speak their native language. They were against Ukrainization. They felt Russian. They were Russian by nationality, and they wanted to remain Russian. They wanted to speak Russian language, and they felt as they were Russians in Crimea and in Donbass region, and in other southern and eastern Ukraine. And it was an insane law. It only infuriated these people, and they revolted. People in Donbass took up arms. They first they protested, and the first thing that Ukrainian government did, they sent neo-Nazi football. One second. Hooligans to deal with them. It's insane to think that government sends neo-Nazis, football hooligans, against their own people who protest to speak their own language, because for decades, West spoke about freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of self-determination of different nationalities, and it was a shock for me when this thing happened. But these neo-Nazis traveled to Donetsk and Lugansk to deal with people who only wanted to be what they were, and these hooligans weren't successful. These neo-Nazis weren't successful, and then these people started arming themselves against Ukrainian junta, and then civil war broke out, and it was totally preventable if the Ukrainian government uh, gave these people freedom of speech, freedom to speak their native language, the language that 80% of Ukrainians speaks. It was totally preventable. And when the Ukrainian lost um, the civil war, Minsk agreements were implemented. And if you read these Minsk agreements, stated the Minsk agreement stated that the Ukraine can fully recover the Donbas region. They can fully gain control of Donbas region if they gave them autonomy, if they gave them the freedom of speech, and if they gave them the freedom to speak their own language without a single shot. There no, there won't be Russian troops. There won't be Donetsk and people Lugansk troops. Only the freedom of speech. And when Vladimir Zelensky came to power, he said that I will stop this civil war. But then in 2020 and 2019, there were protests. Neo-Nazis came to president's office, and they painted swastika on his on government buildings. It's impossible to think that in the 21st century these neo-Nazis threatened the president, and he doubled down on, and he said that no, we won't agree to these peace negotiations, we won't agree to Minsk agreements, because he was frightened of these marginals, of these hooligans, of these neo-Nazis. I was really disappointed in him. He was frightened of these neo-Nazis. He was frightened of being overthrown. I was disappointed in his cowardness, and I thought him of as a coward. Yes, he was such a coward, and then he started implementing new policies to appeal more to this more national and more nationalistic neo-Nazi neo-Nazis, and he started more to mass to divert more troops to Donbas region. He started in 2021. He started to pull in more troops to Donbas region, and I wondered why would he do that? Why is he provoking Russia? And only after that, the Russia was diverting troops to Ukrainian border, not the other way around. Ukraine pulled troops to Donbas region, and then in return, Russia pulled in 2021 mass troops on Ukrainian border. But then we back down. And then Russia and Putin had peace negotiations. We had talks with Western leaders about Minsk agreements, about NATO expansion, about NATO expansion in Ukraine, and Zelensky talked uh, about the obtaining of nuclear weapons, and it, I guess, was the last straw for Putin. He thought to himself, no, um, he can deal with this coward who's afraid of these neo-Nazis. He can deal with these leaders. He multiple times said that he won't tolerate uh, this. He won't tolerate nukes on the soil of Ukraine because it would be the same as the nuclear weapons on the soil of Cuba. The US said that they wouldn't tolerate the nukes on the soil of Cuba, and the same said Putin, but no one listened. And I said, uh, and I guess uh, the Western leaders said that uh, we understand that in case of the war, Ukraine will lose, but uh, we will use Ukraine as cannon fodder to use them as partisans to inflict casualties on Russia. We will use Ukrainian case to cripple Russian economy, and will use this case to cripple Russia, and it will be like Chechnya 2.0 for Russia, and Russia wouldn't be able to project its global power in the world. And they thought that it would be uh, like Afghanistan for Russia. There would be partisan activities. No one thought that Ukraine would be able uh, to survive this long. They thought that it would be a huge partisan conflict, and Russian economy would be crippled by sanctions, and eventually maybe a Russian regime would fail. And no one really in the West cared about Ukrainian people. But then Ukrainian on and before the war started in 2021 and in the early 2022, the West gave Ukraine only javelins, only small arms, only rifles, only RPGs, only ATGMs. They weren't given tanks. They weren't given infantry fighting vehicles. They weren't given BMPs. They weren't given artillery. They weren't given shells because they thought that these things would fall in Russia's hands. They thought that this war would be a partisan war. And when the Ukraine was able to survive, uh, the uh, overconfidence was on the Western side. First, the overconfidence was on our side, and it was bad. Then, overconfidence was on the Ukrainian and on the Western side, and it was bad on their behalf because the Ukrainian counteroffensive failed. Of course, Ukraine gained some ground in 2022. They managed to survive. They managed to push out, or rather, I would say, we pulled out of Kiev. We pulled out of Kherson, and they managed to push out us out of uh, out of Kharkov Oblast, and but then the counteroffensive failed, and the overconfidence of the West also failed them, and now they don't really know what to do next. And now they say that Russia won, and now there is overconfidence among our side, and it's I guess also bad because there is a bloody and long and difficult and excruciating campaign awaits us, and it won't be easy for us, and we shouldn't overestimate our power, and it will be also very bloody and difficult for us. But the Western support for Ukraine also crumbles, um, mm, and 2024 is maybe the turning point of the whole war, because there might be a huge Russian counteroffensive in the summer or spring season of 2024, because there is a huge shortage of artillery, Ukrainian artillery ammunition. There is a huge shortage of anti-missile defense ammunition in Ukraine, of Patriot missile systems in Ukraine. There is a huge shortage of military personnel in Ukraine, and there are a lot of mobilization laws in Ukraine, and Ukraine may eventually crumble, maybe not in 2024, but maybe in 2025, or even in 2026. But it will be a long and really difficult process. So we shouldn't overestimate our power.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add that it it looks like it's obvious for us, but our opponents will say that it's Kremlin propaganda. And I just want to mention some facts. Putin didn't recognize votes of the republics which said that they want to be a part of Russia.
Yes.
But he uh, rapidly recognized Poroshenko, then he won.
Yes, in 2014, in the May of 2014, there was a referendum in Donbas region in Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics. There was a referendum, and Putin didn't recognize them. And but in the same time, there was Poroshenko inauguration, and he recognized Poroshenko in the same time. And Putin haven't recognized uh, Donetsk and People's Republics for 8 years, and he hoped that Ukraine will annex this region for 8 years. For 8 years, he hoped to resolve this conflict without any bloodshed. He hoped to give away this conflict, these regions, to Ukraine.
Yeah, and the reason I guess why our opponents do this strange war, image of Russia was broken before this war and
Yes,
before even Maidan, I guess. That's
yes,
poisoning of Skripal, that
yes,
story. Uh, a lot of oligarchs who flee of Russia, who
yes,
constantly criticizing Russia in
yes,
in close contact with the Western media. They
mhm,
all uh, they all made this picture, but this picture is not right. And I just want to hope that our opponents. I understand it's hard, but I hope our opponents will understand. This really not real picture of what Russia was and
What
why
Russia
Russia.
is
Hmm?
and what Russia is.
Yeah, nobody. It will not work, but let's
Maybe it
hope.
will work eventually.
Yeah. So looks like Ukraine is ready to lose some territories, and the reason they pretty confident right now because they understand that this operation it's not fast. It's a very slow process, and that amount of people which serve for Russia is not enough
Mhm.
to take huge amount of territories, even to complete SMO
Mm,
tasks, I guess.
yes. But Ukraine loses confidence day by day. Uh, there is a growing depression in Ukrainian society as mobilization laws hardens, as they see as counteroffensive fails, as they see that um, they wouldn't be able to win this war in the fast counteroffensive. They become more and more desperate. A lot of people leave Ukraine daily, and they try to flee Ukraine. And uh, officials, Ukrainian officials, try to be optimistic, but they are officials. It's their roles to be optimistic. It's their jobs. It would be I would be surprised to see them to say that no, the war is lost. Let's surrender. No, they wouldn't say that until the last drop of blood of Ukrainian soldier. Of course, they wouldn't say that, but Ukrainian population become more and more desperate. They aren't really desperate right now, but they are becoming more and more depressed day by day. But the time must pass uh, for them to realize in what desperate situation they are right now.
Yeah, I agree. But you, so let's talk about worst case scenario for Russia in 2024, and it's
Mhm.
three points. The first one, the sea. Uh, it looks like Black Sea will be the most difficult place for Russia in 2024 because it's why why is it? Can you can you help me?
Yes, yes. Black Sea right now is a problematic um, region for Russia, especially for Russian Navy. As reports say, Russian lost one-fifth of its navy, lost or damaged due to Ukrainian drones or missiles. But these missiles weren't Ukrainians; they were British, and they were mainly British, as far as I know, Scalps and maybe French, but I guess mostly British. And uh, the Russian fleet, Black Sea fleet, really suffers from it. But the outcome of the war is decided not in the sea, it is decided on the land. It is a land war. The Russo-Ukrainian war is a land war. It won't be decided in the sea. It will be decided on the land. We may lose the whole Black Sea fleet, but if we capture Odessa and Kherson region, it wouldn't matter because Ukraine wouldn't have any access to Black Sea. I don't really believe that we will capture Odessa during this war, and I doubt that in the nearest future we will capture Kherson, but who knows? But this war is mainly decided on the land in Donbass region, in Kherson, in Zaporozhye region. Um, our fleet suffers. Crimea may suffer. The Ukraine may send drones, may send missiles, may blow up Crimea bridge once again. But it won't change the course of military action. They may send um, troops to Crimea, but this landing operation in Crimea will be a disaster, and it will end up in a failure because they wouldn't be able to support this landing operation, and it's um, a problem for Russia, but it's not a really huge problem for Russia. Um, we transferred a part of our Black Sea fleet to Novorossiysk. It's also a Black Sea port, but it's not in Crimea. It's also in the Black Sea, but it's a bit further in Black Sea. It's a bit further from Ukrainian shore. I also suggested to you, and I've also spoken to you about that suggestion a few days ago, and now today I've seen this piece of news that we moved some of our ships to Novorossiysk. Further, I guess it's about 800 or 900 kilometers away from the shores of Ukraine. So it would be more difficult for Ukrainian missiles to reach our Black Sea fleet. Yes, so it would be more difficult for our ships to control Black Sea, but there is another way to block access for Ukraine, block sea access for Ukraine, because we bomb the ports of Odessa, we bomb the Ismail ports, so no ships can really reach these ports. So no foreign ships can really access these ports. So we, even if we don't really implement our own Black Sea fleet, we in other ways control Black Sea. Yes, it's a nasty situation for Russia, but it's not critical. We can once again return to grain deal, and it will decrease our losses in Black Sea fleet, and this situation will stabilize in Black Sea for us. And it isn't a really huge problem in the grand scheme of things, I guess. And once again, Ukraine may blow up Crimea bridge, but the Crimea can be supplied first of all by sea. It would be more difficult to supply Ukraine by sea, Crimea by sea. But it is also possible, and it's possible to supply Crimea by the land bridge through Zaporozhye and Donetsk region. So um, it's not a big deal. Ukrainian government officials and American transgender person who is a spokesperson for Ukrainian military, I guess, said that Ukrainian main goal for 2024 will be Crimea, and I guess it's the only way they can bring the media attention to them, the Western attention to them, but there is zero military point in doing that because they can gain zero military gains in, I don't know, blowing up some military military stuff in Crimea. They can damage, I don't know, C-400, C-300, or some military bases, and so what? Will it change the outcome of the battle for Donbass, for Kherson, for I don't know, for Kharkiv region? No, and it's pointless. It's just to bring more media attention. It's pointless. They won't return Crimea with these types of attacks. It's just to bring more media attention, but the Western governments won't give them more military equipment. They won't give them more money, and they won't give them more stuff with these attacks. This is for certain. It's just pointless.
But if they'll borrow,
But
but if,
there is, I'm sorry, but there is one point in doing that. There is internal media point. It's a point for Ukrainians to boost their morale, because their morale seriously crumbled after failure in failed counter-offensive, summer counter-offensive in 2023. Will it boost their morale? I guess a bit, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe after the fall of Avdiivka, after the fall of other cities, after our offensive, or after their failed another Ukrainian failed counteroffensive, it won't really matter. So you had another question?
okay, the second point is F-16, but we agree with each other that it's didn't uh, didn't make much difference.
Wouldn't make.
Wouldn't make much difference just on one case. If it will be just a few F-16 with Ukrainian pilots. And now, third point, no fly zone.
Mhm.
No fly
Okay.
zone.
Uh, well, um, first thing, the Ukrainian F-16. So I've seen the news that the Ukrainians would be able to use F-16s only by the end of 2024. So only by the end of 2024, they will be able to use F-16s. So the whole year will pass until they will be able to use them, and there are only a dozen of F-16s, and they won't be able to gain air superiority with them because our aircraft fleet is really capable. Our anti-aircraft systems are really potent, are really good, and they can use them really F-16s really carefully, and but they won't change the outcome of the battle because there are too few of them, and um, uh, no-fly zone. I guess the NATO countries wouldn't do that because it means the all-out war with Russia, and NATO population doesn't want that. The US population doesn't want that because it possibly means nuclear exchange and mutual nuclear deterioration, and European countries doesn't want the war with Russia, and I absolutely agree with that. And there was an exit poll about and there was, I mean, survey about whether the people in the countries want to fight for their countries in Europe, and most of people there said that they don't want to fight for their countries. Most of people there, they of the population said that they don't want to fight for their countries. They don't want to participate in wars. They don't want to fight for their countries.
I guess the most of people of Russia and Ukraine uh, uh, would say
No,
so
no.
before
In this,
war.
no, in this survey, the population of Russia and Ukraine said that they wanted the bigger of percentage of Russians. I guess it was 56% of Russians that said that they are ready to fight for Russia. I don't remember for Ukraine, but the percentage of Russians is much bigger.
You know how it's happening? It's usually the question of level of emotions. Uh, I agree with you. Right now, it's hard to imagine, but we can imagine some events which Russia, as always, will be
Accused
uh,
of,
accused
accused of.
of. Yeah, you know what kind of events it can be. Zelensky assassination, chemical bombs, something
But
like this.
I don't, I still don't think that people would be ready to die for their countries. Maybe some volunteers, but not general population.
And another point is changing of political landscape in Europe. I mean, the US looks like it's stepping aside. It's saying we have too much problem inside our country, and we have civil problem as well. We have Israel, and do it by yourself. Britain,
Mhm,
Germany, France, and this the most crucial point, I think, because they right now thinking, okay, I we are leaders right now. So what will we do? Will we agree that Russia can win? Will we mm, will we draw cross line of our politic career, or we don't really care how much people will die? It's more important for us is our career, our places, our money, and
mhm.
maybe they intervene in this war. It's just
Uh,
guessing. It's just guessing, of course.
well, my thoughts is that no, the military of uh, European countries uh, are depleted. Um, their ammunition of artillery are completely depleted. They almost they said the Germany Bundeswehr, the Germany army said that they have ammunition for artillery ammunition for 2 days. For 2 days, they have only 200 tanks. Only 100 of them is capable of fighting. Other 100 are in repair. The British military is also underfinanced. They have a really huge problem with finances. They have also a really huge problem with tanks. They have around 200 tanks, and only 100 of them is capable of fighting the same problems as with the whole Europe. We demilitarize the whole NATO countries without fighting with them because they've gathered all of their military equipment and sent to Ukraine. They can fight Russia because they don't have almost anything to fight with. I'm a bit exaggerating, but their military are really, really depleted, and they have need years, if not a decade. They need to have at least 10 years to replenish their supplies of ammunition, of mostly artillery ammunition, of infantry fighting vehicles, of tanks, of other stuff to replenish, to be only on the same level as before the war. And the only thing that exceeds the level of Russia is their aircraft fleet. Yes, their planes, their fighter bombers fleet exceeds, and it will be a huge problem for Russia. But their ground forces are really in a big problem. But if they will be united, it will be really will face a big problem for us. But we'll see. And but they won't risk an all-out war with Russia because, and as you said, they don't want Putin to win, but they don't have any tools for Russia to tools. They don't have any tools for Ukraine to win. What they can do? They can do nothing. They don't have any magical trick to put out of their sleeves for Ukraine to win. And US said that also. They can. The only thing that they can provide is, I guess, rockets, multi-range rockets, long-range rockets, but even that won't change the outcome of the war. It would be painful for us. They would destroy some of our military facilities, but it won't change the outcome of the battle. They can provide a few hundred, I guess 200 or 300 of really outdated Leopard ones, and they can provide, I guess, 30 or 50 more Leopard 2s, and that's it. But Leopard 1s is a piece of crap because they have only 70 or 90 millimeters of protection, and they are really outdated, and they've already lost some of them. They can, I don't know, they can they can provide all of their tanks that and infantry fighting vehicles that their military has, but they won't have any tanks and infantry fighting vehicles in their countries at all. But it's not possible, and they now think about their plans for 2024. the NATO countries are just thinking about their plans. How about their strategies? So the US says, so it's up to Europe now to help Ukraine. So Europe thinks what to do now. So they think that okay, this is a war of attrition. Russia moves slowly. So if we provide um, defensive weapons to Ukraine, maybe Russia will suffer casualties for months, for years, and they'll eventually capture maybe Donbass and maybe Zaporozhye region, and Russia will suffer such high casualties that they won't be able to launch other counteroffensives, and Russia will be forced to sign an agreement, and okay, Ukraine will be forced to cede some territories like Donetsk, Lugansk oblasts, and maybe Kherson Oblast, but that's it. Ukraine will survive, and Ukraine will be accepted to the European Union and will win this war because Ukraine survived. We won. It wasn't our full victory, but it wasn't our loss either. It's their thoughts, but yes, it's I guess their ideal scenario. But only time will show because we have only two scenarios. Either this will happen, this will be a long attritional war. Will capture Donbass region within, I guess, 2 years, or Ukraine will sooner or later, maybe 1.5 or 2 years, will collapse and will capture Kharkov, Sumy region, and other regions, and Ukraine will have to demilitarize, then Nazify, and other funny wars. And Ukraine will force to cede other regions to Russia, and it will be the Europe would lose this conflict, but still Ukraine will survive. I don't see Ukraine. I don't think that Russia will totally occupy Ukraine. I'm sure it wouldn't happen. At least during this conflict. During this war, the Ukraine wouldn't be totally occupied. Okay, during this war, at least Donbass region, Kherson region, and Zaporozhye region. It's minimal. Maybe Sumy region, Kharkov region, and maybe other few regions, maybe Odessa region. It's maximum, and Ukraine will still survive, and Europe will say we won because Ukraine survived, and it will be prosperous. And I've read news articles that I've read Western news articles that Ukraine will win if it even if it loses regions, because it needs to make goals to be democratic, prosperous European Union country, and it will be a free country, even if it loses some regions. It will be a rich, prosperous country, and it will eventually rebuild its military, and eventually maybe it will in other war it will return its territories, because maybe Putin will die eventually, maybe there will be a civil war in Russia, and then Ukraine will launch its counteroffensive, and when there will be a chaos in Russia, Ukraine will return its territories, even maybe Crimea, and maybe it will even capture Belgorod region and Crimea region
Kubань.
and Rostov region, and also Moscow.
You don't mention Kuban. It was a part of
And
the.
Kuban, also Kuban.
It was what the idea of Kuban? I didn't remember that Kuban is part of historical Ukraine like this.
Если есть на свете рай, это Кубанский край. We have a saying in Russia. If there is a land on earth that's it's heaven, I guess it's better to say that Kuban region is a heaven on earth. But in during the Russian Civil War, the Ukrainian nationalists painted the map of Ukraine with the Kuban region as part of Ukraine. It never was a part of Ukraine during the civil war in Russia because Ukraine uh, Ukraine had some territories during the Russian Civil War, and it occupied some territories, but it never occupied region, Kuban region, and it was only a plan to occupy Kuban. And Ukrainian nationalists painted this map just as a plan to occupy Kuban.
Okay, I think it's interesting. I hope our viewers think
I
the
hope
same.
that Kuban will be a part of Ukraine. I thought that you will say that.
Mm, I'm not like that. So I hope it was interesting, and if this video will get more than 200 views, maybe we'll make
We'll start
another.
OnlyFans.
So, goodbye.